radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio. For the masses. Yeah. How you doing? How you doing? Today's Wednesday, September 30th, 2020. 274 days into the new year, only 92 days left. That's right. We are live from a bunker. A bunker that is somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? How you doing? All right. You know, what an amazing week here on Fade to Black, and each and every week is great and fantastic in its own way, and things always get better and better. But what an amazing week. This week was the 4 J's. Well, right now it's the 3 J's. Jason, Johnny, tonight John, tomorrow night Jimmy. The 4 J's. 4 J's week. It's weird how the universe works, man. It is just bizarre. Tonight, John Greenwald is here. He's going to bring us the latest from the Black Vault. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. And, yeah, we're going to talk about who is the Disclosure president. We have 2 possibilities in front of us. The election is, can you believe it? The election is 33 days away. Oh, man. Oh. Here we go. I'm going to talk about all of that in just a minute. That's tonight on the show. Tomorrow night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. And when it comes around to Thursday night, let's not forget, this show is all about me. And then Thursday night, I get to talk to all of you. And the things that we talk about are my favorite things. If I have a list of favorite things, let's start from the top. Let's go with Rita and family, right? Usually that's off of the table, but we squeeze it in. And then, of course, it's guitars. It's the rock and roll. It's UFOs, conspiracy, and time travel, and food. Oh, man. You know, and we get it all in, right? We get it all in. Talk about Dimebag Darrell and UFOs. Does it get any better? For me, it doesn't. And there you go. Now, so that's tomorrow night. I can't wait for it to get here. And a quick update. I posted some pictures of the construction that is going on in our backyard in prepping for the giant Elvis statue that is being installed. And I got to say, standing out there and looking at what is being done, I am so happy. I'm so happy, and this is the deal. So I turned to Rita, and you know what? This is the truth. Rita and I are happy and excited, and we love these changes. But I said to her, I can't wait for your parents to come over. Your dad's gonna lose it, and that's what we do it for. We do things like this for family, and I just cannot wait. Her dad's birthday is coming up, and we're gonna have dinner over at the house, and I just can't wait. I can't. Is that Elvis? Oh man! All right. I'm in a great mood. John Greenwald is here tonight, and always great when John stops by. Always breaking news. He's always on the front of everything. More on that in just a minute. And now a couple of things. I got to do some house cleaning here. Tomorrow, it may be tomorrow. I hope to have things ready by tomorrow, but we are going to have a very big announcement, and I cannot wait for that. And when you see it, you will understand. I'm holding off for now. We need to have everything in place. It seems to be there. Announcement is tomorrow. But I'll say this. It involves River Moon Coffee. It certainly does. So just be patient, and hopefully by tomorrow's show, we'll be able to do this. We'll definitely do it over the weekend, but I would much rather be able to announce everything on the air tomorrow night. All right, so get ready for that. Also, I know you want your own crystal skull. I've got crystal skulls all over the bunker. They moved into the bunker for the show with Carolyn Ford, and I haven't been able to part ways. That's right. Oh, yeah, the microphone's in the way with the camera. I got all the crystal skulls right here, and I know you want one. Go to EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Click on the banners over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. It's right there. And use the promo code Jimmy, Jimmy, 10% off of your crystal skull order. Go and check it out. She's got the best. Go and check it out. All right. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Start your social media life with me right there at JChurchRadio. All of the links to our social media is over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Hello to everybody on YouTube, TalkStream Live, Facebook, Vimeo, KGRA. Who am I leaving out? Tune in. I'm leaving some stuff. Hello to everybody out there. It's going to be a great show. I'm excited. Any questions or comments? Hashtag F2B on Twitter. And if you, hashtag F2B is the sandbox. And if you have any questions for tonight, for myself or John Greenwald, hashtag F2BQ. See, this is what I'm talking about. I just glance over on Twitter. This is why I love this audience. I just glance over on Twitter, and there it is. Mark Tirana, all the way from Australia. Quick on the draw. Got me a Dimebag Darrell gift. Yeah, man. I got me a Dimebag Darrell guitar coming. I cannot wait to show it to everybody and proudly display it with everything else. You know, I have all of these Strats in here. You know, I'm a Strat guy, and Strat-ish guitars like the Eddie Van Halen stuff and the Steve Vai stuff. But the Dimebag Darrell ain't that. You know. It's a Dean ML, the Dimebag series. That's right. So, going to proudly display that in here. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear what it sounds like. All right. It's got Seymour Duncan pickups in it, by the way. Just letting you know. And I know Rita just went, what? I need to play that back. What? All right. My birthday's coming up. Right? I got that coming. I got a new guitar coming. All right. Breaking news. All right. We lost two musical giants yesterday. Helen Reddy, singer of the 70s hit songs, I Am Woman. Man, she was melodic. She was just incredible. She died here in Los Angeles yesterday at the age of 78. And also yesterday, legendary country singer and songwriter Mac Davis, who first found fame writing hits for Elvis Presley, A Little Less Conversation, and In the Ghetto. Man, when I was a kid, I had the 45 for In the Ghetto. I wore it out. It wouldn't play anymore. Yeah. Died following heart surgery in Nashville at the age of 78 as well. Sad. Rest in peace, you two. You deserve it. All right. Other breaking news. Palantir Technologies, the secretive data company best known for taking on controversial work for the United States government, made its Wall Street debut today. In the 17 years since it was founded, Palantir Technologies has received financial backing from the Central Intelligence Agency. That's right. They have become one of the most valuable private companies in the United States, providing tracking software for the CIA, the NSA, and other intelligence agencies. Palantir, which provides governments and corporations with tools to help with everything from tracking the spread of the coronavirus to zeroing in on terrorists, that's right, guided munitions, stated in its prospectus that one of its goals is to become the default operating system for data across the U.S. government. Holy crap. Right. All right. I'm going to leave that right there. Tensions continued to escalate today between Azerbaijan and Armenia as both countries appear to inch closer to war. While skirmishes continued along their shared border, the United States is calling on the fighting to stop and offered to mediate potential peace talks for the United Nations. The U.S. State Department statement echoed calls from the United Nations for peace talks to begin. Those calls intensified after a UN Security Council meeting yesterday where Secretary General Antonio Guterres condemned the violence and asked for the peace talks to begin. They need to now, and neither side is backing down, by the way. The commission that oversees the general election presidential debates said today it will be making changes to the format of the remaining two debates. One key change it plans to implement: cutting off the microphones of President Trump and Joe Biden if they break the rules. The plans have not been finalized, and the commission is still considering how it would carry out the plan. The Commission on Presidential Debates is responding to yesterday's embarrassing spectacle between President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden, the Democratic presidential nominee. I'm going to say this. I don't do politics on the show, but I'm going to take the time to do this right now. I want to apologize to all of the United States and the rest of the world on behalf of the United States for that embarrassing showcase. Unbelievable. And you really want to show the world how much we have come unglued? Well, show them that. That's got to make everybody nervous. That's the best we can do. All right, moving on. Let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to today, Fran Drescher. Fran Drescher today is 63. And I don't know, I think of Fran Drescher. I don't go with the nanny. I don't do it. No, I don't know. This is Spinal Tap. Fran Drescher today, 63 years old. Our dead guy's birthday today is, I need a moment of silence, please, Mark Bolan. 1947 and 1977, died at the age of 29. Mark was an English singer, songwriter, musician, record producer, and poet. He was the lead singer of T-Rex and was absolutely first, and the pioneer of the glam rock movement. On September 16th, 1977, Bolan died at the age of 29 in a car crash in Barnes, London, 2 weeks before his 30th birthday. A memorial stone and bust of Bolan, Mark Bolan's rock shrine, was unveiled at the site where he died. There you go. Happy birthday, Mark Bolan. I know he's listening. Dude was cool. On this day in history, OTD, 1955, James Dean is killed in Kalami, California, when the Porsche he is driving hits a Ford Tudor sedan at an intersection. On this day in history, which takes us to our Fader Fact today. And the Fader Fact today, fully vetted, by the way, is about James Dean's car, that Porsche Spider. James Dean's car, which he nicknamed the Little Bastard, was cursed. After the accident, the car rolled off the back of a truck and crushed the legs of a mechanic standing nearby. Later, a used car dealer sold its parts to buyers all over the country. The car's engine, transmission, and tires were all transplanted into cars that later were involved in deadly crashes. And a truck carrying the Porsche Spider's chassis to a highway safety exhibition skidded off the road and killed its driver. The remains of Dean's car vanished from the scene of that accident and haven't been seen since. And that is your Fader Fact. Tonight, very special guest, John Greenwald is here. Now, we're going to be talking about the latest from the Black Vault. And tomorrow night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. That's right. The rock and roll, the UFOs, the music, and the food. All tomorrow night on Fade to Black. All right. Let me hit this River Moon coffee. It's got my picture on it. Look, River Moon coffee. There I am. Fade to Black blend. There's my picture. You see it? You see that? It's the best coffee in the world. You've got to get some. You got to. rivermooncoffee.com. All right. F2B blends, your promo code, 15% off of your order right now. Okay. Here we go. Man, I got to hit this coffee again. I got so much to say. 2020. 2020. We are officially living in what may be the craziest, most significant year in all of human history. That's right. You see, the news that has dominated the headlines for the last 9 months has been the biggest, most significant drama ever. There has been no slowdown in world events. There has been none. And all of the big four, the big four headlines, the pandemic, the world economy, racism, and politics are showing no signs of slowing down. And over the past week, all of it has been kicked up a notch. It's been kicked up a notch to a new level that we just didn't think possible. That's right. And when you combine all of that with the other big news of the week, water on Mars, right? A new exoplanet as hot as our sun. The time travel paradox may be solved. And of course, a new $23 million toilet for NASA. Yeah, man. But the other big news that kind of went under the radar this week is that the FBI sent John Greenwald all of the 1964 Socorro, New Mexico UFO landing case documents, and all of it witnessed by Jesse Zamora. All right? It's a big deal. There is more to this story that we'll be talking about tonight with John. But what is most important about this is that the most recent document release is, quite honestly, how much more do the various agencies have? How much do they have? How much are they holding back? Not only with Socorro, of course, but every case that they've released, everything in the past, right? Everything, air quotes. We've heard it so many times before. I mean, how many times? How many times can they say, that's it? That's all of it? There's nothing else in our files. You've got it all. And then there's always more. And the documents, because we can go back and look at what was redacted before, what is redacted now, what was so important to redact before that isn't now, and the change. It's bizarre. So they obviously have clean documents. That's right. We can't depend on the FBI. We can't depend on the Pentagon, the Senate, the CIA, or anybody else to move disclosure forward. It's done by us, the UFO community, and people like John Greenwald to keep the pressure on. That's how it's done. Think about it. The sensation over TTSA has stalled and is dead in the water. So we don't have that going for us. There's still hope that they'll somehow turn things around, and I've always got my fingers crossed on that. But the UFO community has always managed to get things done on our own, and there is no reason to sit around and wait for something to happen in Washington. That is why we must continue to do our own thing. Which brings me back to another topic of discussion that we have every 4 years. And that is this. Do we now have the possibility of a disclosure POTUS? Is that where we are? And we have this discussion every 4 years. Just comes up, surfaces. Talk about presidents in the past, how they promised things, and it never happened. This time around, right, we're down to the wire. The election is just a month away, and it's down to two guys, Trump and Biden. Now, we're going to be talking about this very important topic tonight with Greenewald. And as crazy as it sounds, we may have to wait another 4 years for the right person in the Oval Office. But when you think about it, we just did the same thing with TTSA. So what is another 4? I know. I get it. It sucks. It does. I understand. But we must remember, when President Trump was asked about UFOs over the last year by 3 different people, and one of them was his own son, he just shot the whole thing down. He just doesn't believe. That turned out to be 4 years down the tubes, if you think about it, along with TTSA. The opportunity was there. He was asked 3 times. The opportunity was lost. And staying on President Trump for a moment, at the time when he was asked these questions, I said this here might have been, one of them was last year, we're already in September and everything is a blur, but it was the uproar that was going on with Area 51, right? 2 million people were going to storm Area 51. And I think Trump got the two confused because he said Roswell. Yeah, a lot of people are interested in Roswell. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Okay, all right. He was thinking about Area 51. Roswell is what came out of his mouth, which said to me right then, he doesn't have any interest in UFOs, doesn't care, doesn't believe in it. All right? All right. But then there's Biden. And I've never heard him mention the subject, ever. Now, I may be wrong. Maybe Biden has mentioned UFOs or the UFO question in the past, but I don't remember it. So we're going to talk about that tonight with Greenewald. And the other part is this. Will the UFO question be asked during the debates? We have 2 debates left, right? And I stopped today and I thought about this. Who knows? Will we have a breaking UFO story to take over those big 4 headlines in the media over the next week in time for the next 2 debates? Seriously, think about it. So I'm asking you right now, this audience, to stop and just think about this subject. Just think about this. The debates, and will a moderator ask the UFO question? Right? Put it out there. Get it out there now. Start thinking about it. We need ET to phone home now. We need some action. We need to think about it. Just put it out there. That's how the universe works. Let's put it out there. Think about it. Think about it. Think about it. We need a breaking UFO story this week. We need all of this to go in the front. We need Marco Rubio talking about this on camera. We need Tucker Carlson. Actually, we missed the opportunity, didn't we? We had Chris Wallace moderating last night in that charade of a debate. But it would have been nice if we had a UFO story and Tucker could have shoved that into Chris Wallace and maybe made that happen last night. But that's the Fox opportunity has passed us by. But we need a breaking UFO story, and we need it now. All right. I'm going to say it again. Seriously, we need this. So everybody, put it out there. We need a CE5 moment with Fade to Black. All right. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. All right. Let's do this, man. I'll be right back with John Greenwald of the Black Vault. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Introducing the Game Changer blend from Rivermoon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all Rivermoon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com. Go Beckley Teppy.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. GetTheTea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's GetTheTea.com. GetTheTea.com. The tea that makes you go.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, John Greenwald, the third of the 3 J's. 4 J's this week. I'll be hosting tomorrow night, Fader night. 4 J's this week. Strange. Tonight, we're going to be discussing the latest from the Black Vault and who would make a better Disclosure POTUS. Yeah, man. Of course, John began researching the secret inner workings of the United States government in 1996 at the age of 15. He targeted such groups as the CIA, the FBI, the Pentagon, Air Force, Army, Navy, NSA, DIA, and countless others. Greenewald utilized the Freedom of Information Act to gain access to thousands of records. He accumulated an astonishing number of documents on topics related to UFOs, the JFK assassination, chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons, and of course, top secret aircraft. It's called the Black Vault. His teenage project turned into the largest private online collection anywhere in the world. Now, he's published I think officially his first book is Beyond UFO Secrecy back in 2002. But now he's got The Secret of the Black Vault, and I think that's volume 1 and 2 now, right? You got 2 of those out, John?
Yeah, I got a couple of them. Inside the Black Vault, and then the second was Secrets from the Black Vault.
Yeah, that's right. And let me ask you this before we get started. We got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. But how difficult is it? It's one thing to accumulate documents and burn out scanners, right? Okay. So there's that part of it. It's a whole nother thing to write a book. That's a lot of discipline. Is that something you enjoy? It seems like a lot of work.
I mean, honestly, it's a beast. I'm not going to lie. It's very, very difficult to really kind of sit down, especially when you got 2 kids, a family, a job. And so it's brutal. It really is. But I love it just simply because you get to take decades worth of work, what you've put your heart and soul into, and then essentially put it together and make it make sense. Because I've been called all sorts of different names over the years, but archivist, investigator, researcher, journalist, you name it.
Shill, you got to throw shill in. Come on.
Yeah, I forgot it's a family show, so there were some other ones I couldn't throw in there. But that being said, though, it's I kind of associate more with an archivist, and my whole point with that is I take everything and put it online. And one of the most common reactions from people is sometimes, what's the best part of that? And it's like, for me, well, I just dumped 1,000 pages. Why don't you sit down and read it? But of course, I'm not being serious when I say that. So with a book, you get to take all the best of the best and make it fun for people. Make it, because it's brutal to go through 1,000 pages of, let's say, FBI UFO records or something. But when you go in and pick the best 10 and then make and weave a story, right. That to me, I have a lot of fun with. So it's a beast to do, but it's a lot of fun because the end product really shows people 20 plus years worth of work in a couple hundred pages that it's a lot easier to read than, 2.3 million.
Right. And let me ask you this. I love asking you questions that you probably have never been asked before. And this certainly must be one of them. And that is, I have done almost 2,000 broadcasts, right? That's a serious number.
Yeah.
But what I can deduce from that is how much I have learned and how much I have changed over the years. For you, how much of that data do you consume, and what have you learned? Now we're in 2020. Are you different than you were back in 1996 on this subject? How have you changed, and how much of it do you consume?
Yeah, it's I'll start with, am I different? Absolutely. I mean, as you consume the documents, which I try and consume everything, you realize that there is an awful lot of information that we're not told. There's an awful lot of history that we don't know, and even present day current event stuff that is being hidden. And that can't help but shape you. That can't stop you from being shaped and change and altered over the years, because I try and stay unbiased. I mean, I really do. I put stuff out there most of the times, especially when it's leaning towards a political angle. Just put the documents out there. No article attached. I don't write anything. Maybe just like a quick backstory with some bullet points, but that's it. Because I want people to consume the actual documents, because they tell amazing tales. I wish I could say, oh, I'm the exact same, but you morph with the way that you feel and believe in certain things. And again, I'm talking broad spectrum here,
sure,
not just on UFOs or whatever, but just on everything. And you can't help but get very involved with who will be our next president, or what decisions will they make, or who is involved, who's calling the shots, and so on, because those documents tell amazing stories. And sometimes when you're denied the documents, some people, I always try and make this point, because some people ask me, well, they just black out everything. Well, that's not true. But the stuff that they do black out, that's part of the story. And that in itself is a piece of the puzzle that shapes the way you look at things and believe in certain things, and maybe alter your beliefs. And so yeah, I try and consume as much as I can. Again, it's about 2.3 million pages that are on there. I'd be lying if I said I read every character of every word on every page. But I absolutely try and take in what I put out there, and I don't just blindly dump it on the internet. I try and go through and see exactly what I'm putting out there. Has it altered history? And I can't tell you, and that, not to do a shameless plug, but that was what the latest book this year was about. Secrets from the Black Vault wasn't just on UFOs. It was about how government documents altered the way that history was told to us. That there were certain things that were in textbooks and essentially just kind of believed to be true. And as the decades tick on, you see declassified information that literally changes history. And that's why I love why I do what I do.
Now, when you go to the door, there's a knock at your door, and it's another box from the CIA, right? The FBI, the NSA, the Air Force, the Navy, the Pentagon, whatever. That only indicates one thing. They know where you live. They know who you are. I think most, including myself, want to avoid that kind of notoriety. You want to stay away from that. Does that ever become a concern for you?
It's always been a concern, especially because I got little ones running around now. When I was a punk teenage kid living, with mom and dad, my dad was the worried one. It was not me, because he holds the same name as I do. And he usually tunes in. So hi, mom and dad, whenever I'm on with you, because they're big fans of yours. So when I was young, it was different. But I also told myself when I was really young, don't go down the paranoid route. Just don't. Because as I was getting older and then got out of my teenage years, even though I still didn't care if they knew who I was, I knew that there was a niche of this crowd that gets so paranoid they won't go outside. They live in a Faraday cage. It's that tinfoil hat silly joke stems from somewhere where people get very, very paranoid. And I pledged to myself in my teenage years, don't ever go down that route. And knock on wood, I never have. I don't care that they know who I am. If they tap my phones, I laugh. If they want to know about my business away from the Black Vault, that's fine. I got nothing to hide. Even if they want to listen in on our conversation here on Fade to Black, or any interview that I do, hey, all the more power to them, because I got nothing to hide, and I take a lot of pride in what I do because it's legal. There's some people out there that just drool over getting leaked documents, getting them in nefarious ways, so on and so forth. And I don't go down that route. Anybody who follows my work knows I'm not a big fan of leaked information. And on one big radio show one time, I had said that I didn't agree with the Snowden leaks. And man, I can't tell you the hate mail that I got after that one. Because again, it's such a controversial issue, but I take pride in the fact I do what I do legally. And I fight and I get frustrated. And sometimes it takes years to get information. I posted on Twitter today, there was one that I did 6.5 years ago that they finally responded to today. My record's 14.5, but this particular one, which came in today, was 6.5. So there's a lot of frustration, but you know what? At the end of the day, I don't mind that they know who I am. I don't mind that I have to combat them all the time. I do it legally, and therefore that's why I feel I've got nothing to worry about.
Okay.
I could be wrong, though.
In your cell phone, do you have the CIA stored as a contact?
I actually do.
You do? FBI, Department of Defense?
Most of the offices, yeah, I've got in there just in case, but now I've kind of transferred them to my business desk phone. But yeah, for years I've had them in there stored, and they've kind of transferred from phone to phone as I upload my phone book from each generation of iPhone.
You know how insane that sounds to the audience and to me. And this is the thing, John, this is the truth. When you call, somebody's in the office. It's Greenewald again from the Black Vaults. Who's going to take this call? That's pretty crazy.
It is crazy. I will say really quickly, most of those that are working within these offices are incredibly nice. They're very personable. And dare I say that I've kind of struck, some friendships over this. And so when Greenewald does call, it's not as bad as you might think. However, there are agencies that I know for a fact absolutely hate me. And there was one employee, this was quite a few years ago, but one employee that came out of the Pentagon, I won't say the agency, but they had messaged me, and I said, well, look, how do I know this is really you? And they told me about letters that only myself and the Pentagon knew about. And so he essentially proved who he was. And the bottom line, I'm paraphrasing here, but the bottom line of what he told me was that he left because of the bureaucracy that was going on inside the Pentagon, dealing with FOIA requesters such as myself. And when I started when I was 15, they thought it was really interesting. A kid was using the FOIA. As the years went on and I didn't take their blanket company line answers, he said that literally eyes would roll when letters would come in from me. And then it would change to emails when they accepted electronic requests. And then I just became the how can we get rid of Greenewald kind of thing. And he told me, I'll never forget it. He said, keep at it, kid. And that's what he said. And I've always remembered that because after that, he kind of disappeared. I mean, we shared a few emails. That was it. But then he disappeared. And it really showed me that people, for the most part, are really good in these offices. But there is a niche within some of these agencies and military branches that just don't want to deal with you. Even though it's your legal right to do it, and even though you're not doing anything wrong, they want you to go away.
They do.
And so that not only was encouraging, but very motivating to keep at it and to not take that company line answer and just give up.
Well, it goes without saying that pretty much any document that is requested under FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act, is something that they wouldn't release on their own, right? No matter what, it doesn't matter. They don't want it out. You're forcing their hand. So no, they can't enjoy that. They want to keep things to themselves and keep it private and keep it secret. That's it. They're not dumping the documents themselves. And so because of that, let me ask you this. Do you consider yourself a whistleblower?
I don't. No, and again, that's going back to I've been called lots of names over the years. I don't consider myself a whistleblower. I mean, if I really had to put a title on it, I'm a research activist, but I'm a researcher that wants to give the general public as much information as they deserve and as much as they want. But I also have a lot of respect for national security and classification. So even though I do push this is where I upset people when I say I don't agree with people like Edward Snowden and Chelsea Manning during that leak, where that's not the way to do this. I believe the public has a right to know, and I believe very strongly in transparency. I don't believe circumventing rules and regulations and procedures that have been set up for a reason. And I come from a family who my grandfather worked on classified weapon systems through the 60s, up to top secret, I believe, and a lot of which we don't know. And I've found my grandfather's name using the Freedom of Information Act, which was the coolest thing. Gave that to my dad for, I think it was a birthday present or maybe Christmas. But I mean, I searched, it was like 2 or 3 years to track down my grandfather's name. So that's my history, is classification. So that's why I see both sides. I understand the reason for it, but I also have a very strong belief in transparency. So I'll push as legally hard as I can, but that's as far as I go. When it gets into leaked documents and, what if somebody cornered you in an underground garage and slid you papers? That just gets into a territory that I don't necessarily believe in.
Now, we've talked about that before. Has that happened? Well, because I think that I don't want to answer for you or put words in your mouth, but everything that is on the Black Vault is FOIA. You have not published on the Black Vault papers that have been given to you from a third party.
In the FOIA document archive, 100% all FOIA information. I do have a case file section for a lot of the paranormal fans out there, is because I've been flooded with people sending information, more their experiences, their photographs, their videos, but also entwined in that are other documents that have come my way. But I wouldn't call them any leaks. Like, there was nothing that was a quote unquote leak. But those are not FOIA papers. So just for those who are surfing the site, there's kind of two main massive sections to it. The FOIA documents are 100% all obtained legally. The case file section, again, is more of a research archive, but not the FOIA stuff.
Okay,
just no leaked.
Let's have fun with the CIA for a second, and they're listening. So let them right now lean a little closer to their speakers and absorb this question. Have you ever had a document in your hands that was too hot, where you went, oh man? Have you ever gone through that?
I've never held information back from posting, if that's what you mean, where if something came my way, it was declassified. I never held it back. Because again, even though I write articles and especially in the last 2 years or so, expanded a little bit more, kind of condensing and I don't want to say editorializing, because I don't do op-eds where I tell you what to believe, but rather just kind of, put it together and edit it a little bit.
I think no. Okay, you didn't answer the question. So let me ask you again.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever held in your hands something that was too hot and you didn't put it on the Black Vault?
No, and that's what I was getting to, is that I've always published. I don't operate where I go, you know what, the public shouldn't see this. If I get it legally, it's not my decision to say the public shouldn't see it. I'm a believer in transparency. So if I got it legally, it's going out there.
Okay, so in the real Black Vault in your home,
yeah,
there isn't a pile of documents that haven't been published.
Oh, there absolutely is, but it's not anything nefarious where I'm holding them back. I'm only one dude.
Okay.
And I file a lot. So yeah, I mean, I've got thousands of pages still waiting to go online. But I kind of pick and choose. The stuff that's newsworthy obviously gets put to the top of the pile. The more interesting stuff, top of the pile. Some of the other stuff that I know may not be as popular out there. Again, it's so hard to find the time to scan all of that. And a lot of stuff comes in electronically also, so that really helps posting. But the paperwork sometimes is pretty challenging.
So the FBI has no need for a search warrant for your home.
No, I'd invite him in because I like my front door. I don't want him busting it open.
Yeah. Oh, really quick. How are you with the fires and everything else? I did hear yesterday that something else, another fire started up the hill there, very close to you.
Yeah. Castaic this year, which is where I live. For those who don't know where it is, it's pretty much the north end of Los Angeles County. It's beautiful. I love it. I had a deer come up to my back gate the other day while I was shooting a television series. I posted it on Twitter. It's a really cool picture.
It is.
But it burns, and it burns a lot. I don't mean to laugh about it, but we have had our breath taken away, both literally and figuratively, by these fires. And one of the biggest ones of the year was literally a 10-minute drive from me, and I saw it start, and I saw a little plume of smoke. Started texting a couple of our neighbors because we all kind of alert each other when things happen, and that thing grew to such a massive size. And now this even seems small. At the time, it was one of the biggest. Over 35,000 acres burned right behind the lake where we're at here. And at the time, that was one of the biggest. Now some of these things are like 60, 70, 80,000 acres. It's absolutely insanity. But to your question, thank you for asking. The lake fire is out. There was another one that started yesterday. I believe they have it somewhat under control, but that's over by the aqueduct and above Saugus. So it's, anything is too close for comfort if you can see it and smell it. But we had
totally. And over the last week, and then certainly yesterday, when I hear these announcements, I'm immediately looking across the valley to see if I can see it. And I always think of you.
Yeah.
But these announcements about Castaic and Santa Clarita are just too frequent now. It's really
nonstop. It's like how many times can your city burn? And the one crazy thing that I don't think I've ever seen, and I grew up in Southern California, used to wildfires, is that lake fire. And again, it was only about a 10-minute drive. If I hopped in the van, I could have drove in flames within 10 minutes. It creates a thunderhead of its own. So it creates like this microclimate. And there's a fairly long name, and I kind of don't recall off the top of my head, but there's a name for this cloud that forms from these massive wildfires that just burns everything on the ground, shoves everything up into the atmosphere, and it actually creates these gigantic thunderheads, which in some cases will actually rain back down on itself. But the fire is so hot that the water evaporates before it ever hits the water. So it sounds like, wow, great, it'll put itself out. It doesn't do that. But just insanity to see that and I posted some amazing pictures of it because I think in my life I've never seen those types of clouds before. But these fires are just getting massive.
Yeah, I didn't think, and certainly we can move on from this. I just want the audience to know that John is right in the middle of it. All of us on the West Coast right now are in the middle of it, but we go through this every single year, and I've never gotten acclimated. I've never gotten used to it. And this year, when you think about the years past, this is for the audience, not necessarily for you, John. When you think about the years past where it has been huge and big and consuming, and then we have this year, which has been the craziest yet. And I just didn't think it could get worse, but it somehow managed to. And I still don't know the reasons why. And we can point fingers. I had actually heard, this was on KFI yesterday, I was driving around in the car, that SoCal Edison might be responsible once again for faulty equipment and down power lines. And it's too much. It's too much. We have too much bad news. We don't need more. So
I'm eager for 2020 to be over with.
Yeah, 2021 cannot get here fast enough.
I'm pretending like once 2021 hits, everything's just going to go back to puppies and rainbows, and we can hug each other again.
Yeah, we're going to have unicorn sightings.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Now, let me ask you this. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. We just had Ben Moss on the show, and he's got his new Socorro book out, which is absolutely incredible, especially self-published, a lot of data in there. But the the documents that are in possession of the United States government, when we're talking about a case like Socorro, where everything was supposed to be out there, it's all done. There's nothing left to see here. And we turn around and get a fresh batch and dump, headed your way. How much is still there for cases like maybe Rendlesham, or even going back as far as Roswell, Malmstrom Air Force Base? You know what I mean? Travis Walton
that hasn't been out yet.
Yeah. I mean, do you have to continue to keep your foot on the FOIA gas?
Yes, and I'll start with Socorro because I published a story this week about FBI files on Socorro. Now, we know that it was researched and investigated during Project Blue Book. Those files have been around, and then they've been declassified for decades and released to the general public. So there's nothing new there. The FBI has also released records. And the very quick synopsis of the FBI is that they have about roughly 1,500 pages or so on UFOs. And in there are about, I would say, 25 or 30 pages on Socorro. So they as well got involved in the Socorro investigation, but those have been around for decades. So I had just recently filed a case to the FBI for the Socorro records and to see if what they've been disseminating was complete. It actually was not, to my very big surprise, and got 31 pages from the FBI on Socorro. And most of them were from that big 1,500-page batch that I told you has been floating around and disseminated by the FBI for quite some time. However, there was a report in there with handwritten drawings of the insignia of what Zamora saw within these typed pages. And it was really fascinating to see because, number one, they were cleaner, they were less redacted, so you could read a little bit more. And then obviously they have these little drawings throughout the typewritten pages. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe I missed it, but I went through as much as I could, those 1,500 pages, kind of cross-referenced, didn't see them. So to your question, as much as I think that, look, most everything is out on these bigger cases, it's quite possible that's not true. And things are filed away in boxes and archives and stuff like that where, the agencies say they do their due diligence in 1990 and they never bother to search again, and they disseminate the same thing that they did in 1990 all the way through 2020. But when you attack it a different way, you sometimes make these types of discoveries. And I think you're coming up on a break, so I don't want to step on it. But when you come back, remind me, because there's a very cool story to prove how much the government really just doesn't know what they have in their own archive.
Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, the one and only John Greenwald. Got lots to talk about tonight, and we're going to get it all in. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. More important, you can follow John on Twitter at BlackVaultCom. It's Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I'm a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to forbiddenknowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, forbiddenknowledge.tv. Again, visit forbiddenknowledge.tv today.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer, Einstein the Ancient Crystal Skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We're also Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, John Greenwald is here. We're talking about all the latest from the Black Vault. And a little bit later, we're going to discuss who will make the better UFO disclosure president. Got an election coming up. I don't know if anybody realizes, but it's coming up in 33 days. Don't do politics on this show, but this is a big one. Now, John, talking about, okay, let's go back to where we left off right before the break, which is, when you find something that says, hey, there is more to be had. We'll get to that in a second. because evidence of this, Ben Moss was just on the show, and the of all things, Craigslist was the source for missing Blue Book files, specifically about Socorro, New Mexico, that we thought all of Blue Book was out there. And then documents show up, a treasure trove of documents pop up on Craigslist of all places.
That's right. It's a great story. Rob Mercer was the investigator that found that. And I wrote about that story in my book last year simply because, and for this very reason, how much gets out of the military or has gotten out of the military or the government, taken home by someone like this, and stored in a garage and collected dust for decades. And yeah, they had a lot of Socorro files in there, but also a lot of other files that have never been out.
That's right.
A lot of other files that were never out before. And so, and not in the Blue Book collection. So this guy took them home and they just kind of disappeared. And in addition to the Socorro ones, there were some letters from military officers and how they treated UFO cases and other military military enlists that had witnessed UFOs and reported it during Blue Book. I mean, this guy was reaming them in the documents, who was forced to investigate it. And you can tell that the investigations were just completely biased. So it's amazing to see those types of documents surface.
Hey, you just wonder how much more is out there, and
yeah. And before the break, really quick, because this is a testament to how much is out there.
Right.
There was a declassification initiative by the National Archives years ago. And what they were doing is they were pulling these boxes that were classified for decades. Nobody knew what was in it. They just had top secret. So they started barcoding everything and essentially splitting it up like a production line. If it was secret, it would go one route, top secret, go another route. So they pulled this one box that was top secret, Vietnam era. They pulled it down, barcoded it, sent it down the line, had to go to somebody who was cleared enough to see it. Long story short, they ended up finally getting it cleared to somebody who was cleared to open up a top secret box. And inside was a moldy sandwich. And it was a top secret moldy sandwich. Now, the backstory is pretty interesting. It was, I believe, a colonel during Vietnam who was killed in action. He was essentially the guy that had a lot of the plans in his hut. They go in, they put everything into a box, including what he was eating for lunch, that sandwich. It gets taped up, sealed, sent back, and that was it. It was labeled top secret, and it sat for decades and decades. And so there was this top secret moldy sandwich. And it's a true testament to how much they have, that they have no idea what's there. So is it Roswell information that we'll find next? Rendlesham information that we find next? Another UFO crash that no one's ever heard about? There's the possibilities are endless, but the evidence is there to show that through the FOIA, if they say, John, we did a thorough search, this is all we have, generally you conclude that's probably not all they got.
Now, let's go back to Socorro and the files that you just received. A lot of focus has been put on the insignia, the logo, whatever it may have been on the side of the craft that Jesse Zamora saw in Socorro. Describe what you saw in the new documents. Was anything different?
I wouldn't say that anything is different. I think that the facts were there. What was kind of new to me, at least I had not seen these before, and cross-referencing the FBI packet, they weren't there. You had these hand-drawn in insignias within the typed pages. For those that are following us on Twitter, because I know you just tweeted it out, it's within that PDF file. And the heading is United States Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Investigation. That document, I do not believe, is in the original release. It's FBI, not Air Force. And we know that the Air Force is the majority of the documents. But we also see how the FBI had kind of labeled Lonnie Zamora, who was the police officer who went out. They described him as sober, dependable, mature, and not known to engage in flights of fantasy reported seeing an unidentified flying object. And then it goes into the detail. So I wouldn't say that there's anything that we didn't know, but rather it's another angle to look at it from the FBI, where some of these documents, in my opinion, have never seen the light of day, or at least that I've seen.
This is, and I read through some of this this week as soon as you posted this. What I wanted to ask you, and I'm scanning through them now. There it is. Okay, on page 6 of the scan documents in the PDF file, everybody can go and look, and you can go through the reports and look at this particular page labeled page 6. It's got the insignia with the curve.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and there it is again a second time. Which would say to me that this report was written after Captain Holder changed Jesse's story, right? And one was an inverted triangle with 3 lines under it, and then the new version that was released by the Air Force was the insignia with the curve. Again, a point of contention and concern with everybody that has researched this case. So the FBI apparently got their information. They were on the scene that day. Let's not misunderstand what went down there. They were there with the Air Force all together with Jesse right after.
Lonnie, you're talking about
Lonnie. Did I say Jesse Zamora?
Yeah.
Who is Jesse Zamora? I think Jesse Zamora is a friend of mine from high school. Hello, Jesse.
Well,
Lonnie's
Jesse Marcel.
No, there is. I have a friend, Jesse Zamora. Oh, I'm not making that up. Okay, Lonnie Zamora. So they went with the Air Force's description of this for the FBI report. Is that the way to deduce this?
That's what it appears like to me. Yeah. And I will say that because I knew somebody was going to post this out. I did not touch it because I don't want to go down that route. But of course, somebody pointed out that the object was, and there's a handwritten shape to talk about what shape the craft was, and it did not take long for somebody to say that looks like a Tic Tac. I'm not saying that, please.
No,
I just get a kick out of it because that is what a lot of people at this point now associate UFOs with. And then when they see anything that resembles a Tic Tac, they're like, see, this is yet another example. And sure enough, this document, it looks like they put a Tic Tac on the piece of paper and drew around it, which is kind of funny. Coincidence, I'm sure, but that's what a lot of people kind of honed in on, in addition to the insignia.
Now, let's talk about the insignia for a second. Have you seen any references to that insignia in your 2.3 million documents? Anything similar in reports from the past?
Nothing that stood out to me, no. I mean, if you're talking about relation to the Socorro landing itself, and obviously some of the Air Force records, I think, make reference to it. But other than that, if you're talking about like matching this up to something,
right?
No. I mean, I've never seen anything. I've been waiting for it, though. I mean, this obviously was decades ago. Even if it was something heavily classified, you'd think at this point they'd be able to talk about it. Very much using Roswell as an example, where we were fed a story for quite a few years, and then it morphed over time, and then all of a sudden it gets into Project Mogul and so on and so forth. So that let's just say that's true. I've been kind of waiting for that with the Socorro thing because it is so documented through the Air Force and obviously the FBI, but no one's ever come forward and say, okay, this is actually what it was.
And there's one other question, because you are definitely an expert in this area, which is Black Project and secret aircraft. And you were born and raised right here in Burbank, Lockheed, Skunk Works right there for everybody to see and drive by on Hollywood Way. It's a pretty crazy thought to think that everybody driving up Hollywood Way had no idea that the SR-71 was being assembled a few yards away from the stoplight there at the car wash. But that being said, this insignia, there are comments from other researchers that this would indicate to stay away from flame or an exhaust underneath the aircraft. Now, in your knowledge of experimental aircraft by any corporation, have you ever seen a symbol similar to this for exhaust or danger?
To be honest with you, no, that doesn't ring a bell, but I could absolutely be wrong. I don't know. I mean, I've never worked in that industry, so they absolutely could have something like that. But I would imagine there would be a more definitive skeptical response to that with evidence at this point, unless I've just not seen it.
Right. Because I've been looking for it too. And when you make a comment like that, just show me a reference. That's all. Just show me a reference.
Yeah, there's a lot of guessing going on, not only with Socorro, but more of a broad range now. I mean, there's a lot of guesses out there, and social media just makes it kind of worse. And the evidence thing is needed when you make claims like that, which sadly in 21st century ufology is kind of few and far between when people offer up evidence for a claim. But regardless, no, none of that really rings a bell to me.
Now, the page with the tic-tac, the hand-drawn tic-tac, is page 4 for everybody at the bottom of the page. And it's very interesting, too.
Oh, no, look at the one on page 6. It's even better.
Let me see here. Hold on.
Yeah, I had to scroll back myself.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. You're right.
Yeah, that's the one that made me kind of giggle because it literally looks like a tic-tac on the page, and they traced around it.
Yeah, they both do. Yeah. Page 4 and page 6. And it's interesting with if you go back to the page 4, and we're going to move on from this, but the page 4 description, it was whitish, right? Against a Mesa background. It seemed like, and then there it is, the drawing in shape, and at first glance it can be an overturned white car. But that's a tic-tac. Well, that one's a tic-tac with legs. Page 6 is just a tic-tac. Now, okay, back to specifically with these documents. What stood out for you that wasn't originally released?
What we're looking at right now is the document that I do not believe has been either released before or the FBI did not include it in their release. Here's what I've learned in a nutshell from the FBI is that they have what's called, and this is so cleverly named, they call it the vault. And in their vault, and by the way, they only launched this about 6 or 7 years ago. For the record, I've been around for 24. So they called theirs the vault, and they archived their FBI files in this website that they now have all of these different files in. And you can go in there and see all different celebrities and former CIA agents and UFO stuff, and you can download these documents. Now, what I've learned the hard way is that they give the impression what they are giving out is complete. And so I started challenging it after quite a few years of just kind of taking what they kind of imply is a complete record. I started filing FOIA requests to see if there was more, and I discovered that there is more than what they are posting. So they are kind of picking and choosing. So I can't tell you how many years they've disseminated these UFO documents, this gigantic packet of UFO material, but they don't tell you that they took away this Socorro document. So I had just made a major, what I call a FOIA score. So for researchers out there, this was an absolute gold mine. For years, I fought for the FBI to release a list of their previously released records. They call them their pre-processed files. I forget how many years I fought for this. Finally got it about a month and a half ago. And in it is just an enormous amount of information. But within that index are multiple UFO references, one of which was the Socorro reference, which is what sparked me to go after that individual file and obviously make the discovery that what they imply is complete in their UFO release is not. There's actually more. So there's other records as well. There's one that's really intriguing. I think it's called UFOs and Their Crimes. And so I'm really eager to see what's there. It could be a big dud. It could just be mislabeled. It could be something that's been around for 30 years. Who knows? But after I got this Socorro release and realized that there are records there that have, in my opinion, not seen the light of day yet, I'm eager to see what else is there as well. So I've got all sorts of FOIA requests that are being processed right now with the FBI.
Why do you think, you must have thought about this over and over again, why is it that the Socorro case with Lonnie Zamora has not gotten the attention of other cases when this was as investigated and documented as much or more than any other case in UFO history, but it's not, it's not the first subject of conversation?
Yeah, I have thought about that a lot over the years. I ended up recreating the entire incident for the History Channel on a show that I produced for them, simply because it deserved it. But number two, it is such an important case that no one really talks about. But obviously, this was what is believed to be the case that turned Dr. J. Allen Hynek from a skeptic to a believer. And he investigated this and went out there. We interviewed Ted Phillips, sadly, who has passed away. But we interviewed Ted Phillips for this, who was kind of J. Allen Hynek's right-hand man, and that's who he really trained to be the next generation UFO investigator. The Socorro incident is what turned Dr. J. Allen Hynek. So we recreated the whole event, and it deserves a lot more scrutiny, because with Roswell, again, you have all these explanations that the military has come out with, and I'm not saying they're right or wrong. I'm just saying they at least addressed it. Socorro, I don't think they can address it. The only thing that made sense to me, but I would imagine that there'd be evidence, and I've never seen anything close to resembling evidence of it, but I know that there's a theory floating around that this was a lunar lander experiment from a nearby facility outside of Socorro, that it was just a training flight, and they go out there and land in the field, and Zamora just happened to be, within eyeshot of it. I think that's a cool theory, but you'd think after all these years, something would come out and say, hey, on that exact day, look what we did, but that's never come around. So cool theory, but I don't think that there's anything that supports it. Again, at least that I've seen. So it remains a mystery.
Yeah, and when you look at the letters and the investigation that Hynek and Blue Book had done with all of the corporations that were all involved in the area with the lunar lander, at that time it was the LLRV. It didn't even have the top on it yet, right? It was just a spindly erector set of stuff. But that's exactly what Hynek wanted to do. He wanted to debunk this case. He wanted to close the Blue Book on it. Yeah. And what he found in contacting all of the company, that the LLRV wasn't ready for testing for another 9 or 10 months. Mm-hmm. It was way off into the future. There was no possibility of it being an LLRV being tested out there in Socorro.
Yeah, and I think that that's why this remains intriguing, is that there's no viable explanation that essentially has evidence to support it.
Now, when we come back, we can address this a little bit now, but I want to talk about it more after the break. How active is the government and agencies across the United States, and you have to consider the local level too, but the Army, the Air Force, the Navy around the country, including the CIA, actively archiving, scanning? Do they have personnel that is digitizing everything, because paper doesn't last forever, number one. Two, they must be sitting on decades of documents that will never see the light of day unless they scan them. I'm picturing containers, right, covering parking lots full of documents. Yeah. And somebody there just scanning one after another and archiving. How active is this, and does it go on at all?
I think on a small scale, yes, but sadly not enough. So, we live in the 21st century with computers, and a lot of things are electronic now, so they're just kind of made digitized. There's no scanning. But there's decades and decades and decades of material that obviously is not in computers. The National Archives is a prime example to understand how much information is there. And they measure the amount of information they have on certain topics that they have indexed by the amount of cubic feet that they have. Not the number of pages, but cubic feet, because the numbers are so massive. These digitizing projects are incredibly expensive and incredibly time-consuming because you can't put them in a scanner with a feeder. So when I scan documents, they're photocopies. So I take a stack of 50 pages, put it on my scanner, press start. I can walk away, and it scans all 50 pages, sucks them through, and creates my PDF file. The National Archives and all these agencies can't do that because these are old, onion skin paper, typewritten. You have to flatbed scan everything. So it's literally open the lid, put it flat carefully down, close the lid, scan, which usually they're not very fast, open the lid, take it out, and repeat. And that's why these things are so time consuming and so expensive that they just do it, that they just don't do it. Where they do is that really kind of hardcore history stuff, presidential library scanning, important documents, presidential signatures, stuff like that. But again, that's what I mean by small scale. Documents also get destroyed. Sadly, there are records retention schedules throughout all the different military branches and agencies. What those record retention schedules say and define is how long they will keep certain records. So some people might think, well, it's the government. They don't throw anything or shred anything. They keep everything. That is not true. That there is a certain time limit for information to be held before they put it into a shredder and get rid of it. They don't shred everything. But again, there are certain documents, depending upon the agency, that are set to be destroyed. To give you a quick UFO story, the Navy informed me through a legal appeal that potentially the ATIP material, if they did send anything to the Department of Defense and the Pentagon, may have been destroyed. And I got that in a legal document. I went all the way as far as appealing a request that I had done. I believe that I had ample evidence that the Navy did have records responsive to what I was looking for. But in a nutshell, they gave me this long legal response. I know you're coming up on a break, so I won't get into all of it. But the gist of it at the bottom was, regardless of any point that we've made to counter your points, essentially it's irrelevant because they may have been destroyed anyway.
And they are able, and they can take that position legally and wash their hands.
Correct. Yeah, and now, and I'll do it on the flip side of the break, but I believe that there's still light at the end of the tunnel, that maybe what I am going after survived, and I have a prime example on why I believe that. But yeah, at this point, according to the Navy, they can wipe their hands clean and say, sorry, John, we destroyed everything. And so specifically, this would be videos, photographs, memos, letters, reports that the Navy sent to the ATIP program within the Pentagon. That's what I was going after. I believe I had ample evidence that they had something, but again, they ultimately tidied it all up and said, hey, sorry, regardless of what you believe you have when it comes to evidence, doesn't matter because it could have been destroyed anyway.
Our guest tonight, John Greenwald. Stay right there. We'll pick up right where we are leaving off. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio, and you can follow John at BlackVaultCom. Hang out with us on Twitter at #F2B. We've got lots of great stuff there tonight. All of it in real time. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRAradio.com.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
Including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, John Greenwald of the Black Vault. John just tweeted, I think you all may find some use out of this link after the flip side of this break. John, you are quite the radio guy, man. I love it that you respect the clock. You know, you've been doing this way too much to stay on your toes like that.
No, I appreciate the kind words. Thank you. I always want to respect the other side, your side, just because I know it's sometimes hard to cut someone off. So yeah, I try and pay close attention to that clock.
Yeah, the art of the cutoff. Man, that's something that you learn.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And sometimes it sounds rude, but a break is a break. So I just retweeted John's tweet with the link, and I'm actually going to click on this so I have this up in front of me. Before we get too far away from Socorro, I just want to ask you this. What do you think ultimately Socorro was? You think it was something off-planet?
I really don't know. That sounds like a cop-out, pardon the pun. But I don't know what Officer Lonnie Zamora saw. I very much am clueless on it. I think it's fascinating. I think that it lacks a viable explanation, and I think it's definitely underrated in the UFO world. But beyond that, I really don't know.
Yeah, it's a bizarre case. It's an extraordinary case. Now, the article that John just posted is the one that we covered on Coast to Coast last week. Evidence of the U.S. Navy involvement in a UFO program may have been destroyed. And so let's get back on this. It's something that for me, and we've talked about this already before, but it makes me feel uncomfortable that an official government agency can so easily wash their hands of something and be able to be in a position legally to go, there's nothing you can do. But that certainly seems to be the case here.
That's what I believe what they're trying to give the impression of. And what I was going after was the evidence that the United States Navy gave or sent over to ATIP. And the evidence that we have to support that, there's twofold. One is Luis Elizondo, and he said that he led the program and he got information from the Navy. I originally filed with just that evidence and was denied a year and a half, 2 years ago, whenever Mr. Elizondo first said that. But fast forward, the Navy gave a statement last year that said that they did play a role in ATIP and that the Navy contributed to them. And so when I filed again, I not only again referenced that Elizondo quote, but also the Navy quote from their own spokesperson. In my mind, when you're filing a request to the Navy and you can utilize the Navy spokesperson, that's pretty much a slam dunk that you've potentially can prove your point that documents exist. And the Navy did the same thing that they did the first time they denied it. So I appealed it. I felt that regardless of what Mr. Elizondo was saying, their own spokesperson said it, that they played a role in this. So how do you get out of that? And so I filed the appeal. And again, when you get to the appeal level, this is when you really get into the nitty-gritty legal stuff, because the next step is taking them into a courtroom. And so when you do an appeal, you really got to dig in and say, here's my evidence. You guys are saying nothing, so you do what's called an appeal of the adequacy of the search. And you go, here's my evidence to prove why you guys have something. And my evidence was their spokesperson and Elizondo. Their response letter, written in lots of legalese, and you can download the whole thing and read it to your heart's content. But they essentially, and I'm paraphrasing, but they essentially broke down every one of my points. They told me and claimed that they couldn't even verify themselves what their own Navy spokesperson said, which is laughable because I then thought, oh my gosh, was this a fake quote that somebody published in a blog? Because I had not received that. I thought I saw ample evidence that it was true. So I wrote the Pentagon and I said, can you guys confirm this? I didn't make reference to the Navy appeal or anything. I just wrote the Pentagon and said, can you guys confirm this? Within like an hour, they confirmed to me that it was totally legitimate. So how the Navy, in months and months of them processing this appeal, couldn't figure it out, it's beyond me. But they essentially said that regardless of what their spokesperson said, even if he did say it, that doesn't mean the Navy supplied ATIP anything. Then they dealt with Luis Elizondo, and here's a very sensitive area. We've chatted about it before, but the Navy actually referenced the Department of Defense's stance and reiterated that Mr. Elizondo did not direct the ATIP program. They even offered citations to a newspaper article that published those quotes. Those citations, again, are then transferred to a court document should I decide to sue. So that's why appeal responses seem much more lengthier than a regular FOIA response. After they dealt with those multiple points, pretty much blew it all out of the water. They have said, regardless of all of that, essentially the information, if they did send something over to the Pentagon, meaning the Navy, it could all be destroyed anyway. And so that essentially was closing the book on the Navy admitting or showing that they had any evidence in the ATIP program, even though their own spokesperson said it himself.
Does it feel to you that after we have gone through the honeymoon phase with not only ATIP and Elizondo and TTSA and the excitement and all of the publicity and the media, does it feel to you that it's winding down somewhat? Does the entire operation that seemed to be in play, does it feel like it is slowing down? Is it being overshadowed by other world events right now, or has the action, started to stop?
In regards to the government, you mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, my answer would be yes. And regardless of your stance on Mr. Elizondo and did he direct the program, did he not, and this whole, debate now that has raged on, to me, it's irrelevant at this point if he did or not. And here's why. This is the first legal document that I know of that anybody has taken an appeal to this level, and they've taken his testimony, which would be admissible in a FOIA court case or should be adequate enough to be utilized in a FOIA appeal. They've dismissed it all, and they said, and they called it speculation. That was their word. And so they call it pure speculation. So anything that Mr. Elizondo is to give to me, to you, a judge, anything, according to this document with citations to what the DOD has said, they'll dismiss it, meaning that the Navy attorneys will not consider it. So that is starting to close the book on one of the only people, let's say it's all true and he headed the program, that's closing the book that he can help at this point. In addition, when you say that, hey, regardless of all of the above, we potentially destroyed the documents anyway, they're starting to close down here. The Pentagon has stated that UAP investigations as part of the task force will remain classified. I fought for the Navy message that went out that said if any Navy pilots are to see UAPs, they report it. I tried to get that message, and it was classified in its entirety. So from a legal standpoint, the writing is on the wall that we got those 3 videos, but that's all we're going to get, in my view. I wrote another, I'm sorry to keep referencing articles, but I wrote something up else about a month ago because as I saw this unfold with the UAP task force and everybody's really excited about it, and so am I, don't get me wrong. I don't want to be a negative Nancy too. Here.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, all of that is awesome, and it's a great development. But when you look at how this is unfolding, it is near identical to how it folded in 1966 when Gerald Ford, in Congress prior to being president, had pushed to get unidentified flying objects taken seriously and to have a congressional hearing, which he succeeded with, and to get a scientific look into what these UFOs are, which also was a success. The result was what we know as the Condon Report by the University of Colorado. This, once written, was then I would say, the nail in the coffin for Project Blue Book in a bad way, because once this was written and published and their conclusions were put on the record, the United States Air Force said, nothing with UFOs. Let's close it all down. And for decades, the United States military and government has cited Project Blue Book, ending with the Condon Report, and essentially just poo-pooing the whole thing, saying that there's absolutely nothing to this, and shut it down. And for decades, they've cited it. And that's how I'm afraid where we're going to end up here, that it's going to, number one, remain largely classified because the writing's on the wall. But then on top of that, they are going to say, look, we had scientists look into it, and no, there's nothing there. There's absolutely nothing for us to look at. And then that starts the clock over. Then for decades, they can go ahead and cite that and shut down any type of push by the public to get UFOs taken seriously.
You've been a respected member of the UFO community for 25 years. And it's not just with the Black Vault, but it is, of course, with MUFON and producing television shows and writing books and a lot of pure hard work and sweat. And this has gone on for a long time, but you have also been a part of the ebb and flow of emotions and excitements and the peaks and the valleys. What do you say to yourself and to the rest of the community about this, again, where the UFO community and yourself, we get excited, we start to push our chips into the middle of the table, and we roll the dice and we gamble and on the hope, and then things get dashed. So you have to speak to yourself on this. You've got, you know what I mean? You're a person like the rest of us, but you're also a part of the community. So how do you address that?
You know, I want to reiterate how exciting this is. So I don't want to sound like a pessimist here, but don't push your chips all in. And the reason is you'll lose your chips. And I can tell you from experience and looking at documents that spanned more than a half a century on UFOs, there is no way that the government is going to turn around and all of a sudden start coming clean because it's 2020. Because Marco Rubio's committee started asking questions. This has been a government and a military that has provably been able to maintain a cover-up of some kind on whatever this phenomena is. Now, all of a sudden, we're supposed to trust that same military and same government to tell us the truth this time around. Well, on the explanation number 2 for the Roswell incident, were we supposed to trust them then?
Right.
Because just a very quick refresher, there were 4 explanations for essentially what happened at Roswell, all with different versions. So if we're all of a sudden going to start trusting them again, in my opinion, that's when your chips are going to fall, and that's when you're going to lose them. Also, betting the farm on this, you really do set yourself up for a letdown, because again, that cover up that has spanned well more than a half a century is still active today. And Marco Rubio and Mark Warner and all these guys that are asking questions at a political level, they may have the absolute 100% purest of intentions, but I guarantee they're not going to be able to do much, nor do I think they will want to be able to do much. I don't think they're going to put their careers on the line for UFO information. I just don't see it. I hope that I'm proven wrong, but I don't think that they're going to start, demanding these answers and put their career on the line.
Well, they did address that. Let me jump in real quick before we do hit the top of the hour, is that they did give us that glimmer of hope when it appeared that what Marco Rubio and the Senate Intelligence Committee was demanding was every 6 months a public discussion on what was studied and what needed to be researched when it came to UAPs. Well, that's a pretty good positive step in the right direction, but in reality, what did that mean?
So it wasn't every 6 months. That was a correction by the New York Times. It was within 6 months of the passing of the bill that they were going to ask the intelligence community for a UAP report. That is the most encouraging and awesome thing about what is unfolding now. However, on the flip side, they also pretty much had the fine print in there that they could have a classified annex. And what essentially that means is, again, this is just based on me looking at these types of situations outside of UFOs, is that generally when you have a unclassified public version of a report, pick a topic, doesn't matter, but an unclassified report, but then you have a secondary classified annex or a classified version of the same report, in my view, as history has shown, they're generally wildly different. And what I mean by that is that when we do get the report, it may not be as juicy as we are going to want this to be. Because let's say there is juicy material, I would bet my bottom dollar that will remain classified, and that will be in that secondary annex, which is language that's in the bill. So I don't want to sound like that negative guy, but that's what I mean is we have to set our expectations right, because there are many examples that we can point to where there was an unclassified report given to the public and then a classified version internally, and generally the unclassified public version did not inform the public of much. And 9/11 was a prime example of that, where you had that public report, you read it, it really didn't solve anything for anybody. Behind the scenes, they had classified versions of the same report. That obviously is much more juicy.
So to be clear, so I'm understanding you correctly, is I get email every time I mention ATIP or TTSA, I get a flood of email. Right? It just it's inevitable. And just last week, I got an email from somebody that said, Jimmy, you just got it all wrong, man. TTSA got the Senate Intelligence Committee to get the Navy to agree to a public discussion on UFOs every 6 months. Nobody's ever done this in the past. Now, this has become part of the status quo, John. Right? Where now this is assumed that this is what is going to happen. What you are saying now is that it's not every 6 months. It was never that way. It was published that way in the New York Times article, but the actual timing of it is just one single response in 6 months after the bill is passed.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought this up because this, I'm not happy you got that letter, but this is going to prove a point that I have feared and have put out there myself on the damage that New York Times article did. So while you were talking there, I pulled up the article to make sure I'm not misspeaking. That every 6 months was how the New York Times originally published their article. This is the one about off-world vehicles.
Yes.
Which in my opinion was an absolute mess. So I scrolled down to the correction. This was not the first correction they made. That was the Harry Reid one. Later in the day, they added another one. Let me read it to you. It says, an earlier version also misstated the frequency with which the Director of National Intelligence is supposed to report on unidentified aerial phenomena. It is 180 days after enactment of the Intelligence Authorization Act, not every 6 months. So they originally printed that every 6 months, the Director of the National Intelligence is supposed to, essentially do a briefing, do a public whatever. That was not true. And the language of the bill was a one-off, at least for this go around. 180 days or 6 months after the enactment of the bill, but that was it. There was no language about it repeating. So that was one of the many things that the New York Times had to go back and correct. So why I'm glad you brought that up is because it does prove this point that we have to treat this topic carefully, because people don't go back to the same article they already read and go, I'm wondering if there's any corrections today.
Was there a redaction?
Yeah, exactly. So nobody looks for that. And that is a prime example of the damage that this does, is because then when you hear that, it's the telephone game. Now they're coming after you saying, Jimmy, it's every 6 months. TTSA did this. This is a huge deal. Well, no, I do believe TTSA played a role. I'm not sure what the connection is yet, but the language that Christopher Mellon posted as a kind of a mock-up language bill, mock-up bill, then he posted some language on like a year or so ago, whatever the date was like very close to what's in this bill now. So I have no doubt in my mind on this one that Christopher Mellon played a role, likely through TTSA, and got Marco Rubio et al. To put all of that into the bill. Because again, there's just too many striking similarities to poo-poo that one. I mean, that one's I think a given.
Now,
there's other claims that have been made that I'll be right there to dismiss them, but this is not one of them.
Do you know has the bill passed? Was it part of the stopgap measure that was passed today or yesterday or today to keep the government open, or has the bill already been passed?
Okay, I don't know for sure.
Right.
I don't want to guess.
The question is,
from what I understand is no, and I think again, don't want to misspeak, but I would imagine we would probably have heard about it from the social Twitterverse if we missed it, that there'd probably be a lot of people talking about it, and I haven't seen any mention of it.
Right. And so, and the language of this security, the UAP program at the Pentagon, is part of the defense spending bill. It's part of the bigger picture. Do we have any idea? I guess not. What's the 6-month date, right? When can we expect the report back from the Navy and the Pentagon?
Correct, and we don't have that yet. I just pulled it up. It just looks like it was introduced on June 8th, 2020, but I don't see anything of it passing. So going back to your question, that date would be if all that passes as worded, then it goes in, the clock starts ticking 6 months thereafter. There's, UAP report.
Yeah, and if it's part of, and I know this is speculation purely, unless you know the bylaws of the Pentagon, but they are legally bound, aren't they?
At that point, yes, but will they actually deliver? Being legally bound this day and age really doesn't matter anymore. I think that I would not be surprised if there were delays. I would not be surprised if it just didn't happen. And then would the committee start demanding? So again, that's not being a negative Nancy, but rather that's the reality with a lot of this stuff. The intelligence community has a lot of issues to deal with. So if they feel they have to make some sacrifices and the DNI says, no, we're not going to do this. We don't care if Rubio's demanding it right now. We need a 6-month reprieve or, however we want to speculate about it. I wouldn't be surprised at any of that. Hopefully we get it in 6 months, but really anything can happen. It's 2020 politics.
Yeah, I know. Well, see, this is the thing. And I'm not trying to dash hopes here, but I want everybody to realize I don't feel in my bones that there are people running around the Pentagon with a date circled on the calendar going, we got to have this UAP report ready for the Senate Intelligence Committee tomorrow. All right, I need all your reports on my desk because I got to head to Capitol Hill. I just don't feel that. I just don't see it. I don't. I want to believe the opposite, but I just don't feel it.
It could happen. Again, I don't want to squash anybody's hopes here. It absolutely could happen, but we just have to look at it realistically that we are inching closer to getting more information out, but what that information is and when it comes, I would not start betting my house that we are on the cusp of disclosure, which a lot of people actually think we are. And I don't see that. I think that there are a lot of hurdles that we still have to go through, but we're not there yet. And that's what I'm afraid is that there's a lot of passion behind this topic. And there's a lot of passion that's driving a lot of people that have come aboard here pushing for answers just in the last 2 years or so, now close to 3. And with that said, I'm afraid that passion is going to go away when the ever so common letdown happens in the field of ufology. It's still a step forward, but we're just not like 4-wheel driving forward, And I think some people think we are 4-wheel driving forward, and we're not. It's a step process to get this not only taken seriously, but also making sure that the right evidence is put out there.
Well, and that's why we need a breaking UFO story like this week. I'm serious, too. We need something to break. Let's take our break right here. We'll be right back. A little bit earlier, John mentioned Gerald Ford. When we come back, we're going to talk about who may be the right UFO disclosure president. We've got an election coming up in 33 days. We're going to talk about all of that and past presidents and what they have said right after this short break. Our guest tonight, John Greenwald of the Black Vault. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Stay with us.
You are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at jimmychurchradio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JFK
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. If you were watching me on the Bunker Cam, one of my favorite watches, I call it my daily wear. Couldn't find it. I just looked down. It's oh, there it is. Oh, man. I love time. John, I don't know about you. I'm a big watch guy, right? And everybody knows I love my guitars, and they're all hanging here in the bunker for everybody to see. But I'm a big watch guy. I love time, and I don't have clocks, right? I don't have clocks, but I have a lot of watches, and I really respect a handmade automatic watch. And I lost one. Turned out to be right here in the bunker. Couldn't find it.
I've never gotten into watches.
Well, when I see you next time, I'll give you one.
Oh, get out. I'm driving over tonight.
Yeah, see, you know what? I remember I was very young, and my dad said to me, every man needs to have one good watch, right? Just one. You need to have one. And it just stuck with me. Everybody, and if you don't, you need to have one. You need to have one good watch.
Well, I do heed his advice. I've got a nice one I wear when I wear a suit, just to kind of complete the outfit. But day to day, I actually never wear them. Haven't for quite a few years.
Man, I can't leave the house. I cannot. If I'm driving away from my home and I forget to put on a watch, I turn around. I can tell you how many times Rita's like, what'd you forget? A watch. And I have to turn around. Okay, so now here we go. It seems that, and you've been going through this along with me and everybody else in the UFO community, every 4 years, man, it comes up, right? We got an election, we got a president, we got candidates. Is this the year that we're going to get the UFO dude into the Oval Office and all hell breaks loose, right? Is this going to be the year? Well, we've got an election coming up, and in case most people don't know, I think tomorrow is the 1st of October, right?
Yeah, it's scary, but yes, that is right.
So what do you think? We've got two choices.
Yeah.
We've got President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. Before we jump into the conversation heavily, I want to ask you about Biden. Has Biden ever mentioned UFOs in the past, to your knowledge?
Oh, boy, put me on the spot. Off the top of my head, I don't think there's any quotes floating around. I mean, Clinton, obviously, on quite a few times, Bill and Hillary both addressed it. There was a journalist that was going around that was asking a lot of UFO questions. And I'm going to apologize to him in advance because I'm drawing a blank on his name.
He's in Connecticut.
Yeah. Do you remember who that was?
I have correspondence with him. He was going to come on the show, and then everything fell apart on the story just a couple of months later because
he has like Bernie Sanders. I don't think he ever asked Joe Biden, from what I recollect, but he asked quite a few of them, and that's really interesting. And generally, though, every politician has a very similar answer, which is, well, they're really interesting. And yeah, if I get into office, give me your vote and I'll get in there. And it's the same old story for presidents and for presidential candidates. Before I answer your question, I'll give a quick preface because this defines my answer. And one of the shows I did for History Channel is one of the first television shows I did in my career. It was called UFOs in the White House. And we explored when I did it, George W. was in office. So that's, quite a few years ago. And we traced from Roosevelt through Bush, every presidential administration and their connection to UFOs. And we explored, Reagan's UFO sighting, Carter's UFO sighting, all the different promises that presidents have made. And it showed me that regardless of what presidents experience, what they believe, or what they promise, disclosure is not going to happen. And every 4 years, I have this conversation. I think you and I may have had it in the past. We've been doing radio a long time together.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, I mean, we have these conversations. I've interviewed Stephen Bassett, been on the other side of an interview, asking him questions, having that discussion. And there's a lot of hope during this time that one of the two candidates is going to be the right one. After doing the show I did on history, I realized there is no right one. And I do not believe that there is a presidential candidate that will go into office and all hell breaks loose. And the reason I say that is, and it can go a couple different ways. Number one, there's no chance that they care enough to do it, or they care enough, they go in, find out the truth, and realize that it is such a national security risk they can't. And so, in essence, they don't. Or if I were a betting man, which I am, this is my guess. The president is left in the dark. And that the president, it sounds conspiratorial, but I truly believe that this is the reality of what it is when it comes to the UFO phenomena and highly classified topics, which we know UFOs is. I've got documentation to prove it. So that's not speculation. But highly classified issues like this are kept from the president. And our president now, and this isn't partisan, this is just reality, our president now is a prime example of why they are left in the dark. And the reason is that a president could tweet about it, or a president could make a mistake and talk about it when they shouldn't have. And there is speculation that some presidents, including Trump, have talked about, and I think it was in the Bob Woodward tapes, that he talked about a weapon that we have, which some are speculating was classified in itself. Now, did he mean to do that? Was it unclassified? We're not sure yet. But again, it goes to the fact that presidents can make mistakes. They're too in the spotlight. So I believe truly that they are kept in the dark, and that presidents, whether they have the purest of intentions or they promised their constituents before they got elected that they would check in, doesn't matter. Once they are in, something happens where nothing happens. Carter had every intent in the world to release all UFO information. That never happened. Podesta was pushing Obama, even though Podesta said, "Oh, my biggest regret is I didn't push harder." No, I believe he probably did push really hard. And for whatever reason, there was no touchdown there. There was nothing that came out. Possibly because Obama said, "Hey, John, I looked, there's nothing. I asked, there's nothing." Or Obama knew it was so highly classified, he kept it. Regardless, it's just not going to happen. So going back to that show, when you look at president after president after president, those that have seen UFOs, Jimmy Carter took the time to sit down and file his UFO report.
That's right.
When you see stuff like that, then they get into office and absolutely nothing happens. Yeah, that's probably not going to come from the president itself. Yeah. I believe that those secrets are kept from them.
That's right. All of the modern presidents, going back, and you look, Ronald Reagan and Gerald Ford and Jimmy Carter and Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, all talked about the UFO subject in a public setting. I don't recall either of the Bushes, though. Do you remember the Bushes ever discussing the UFO topic? Either one?
The connection that we had when Bush was in office was there was an unidentified object. Now, it was a commercial airliner, but it was an unidentified object that encroached White House airspace that forced Bush down into a bunker. And that actually happened while we were producing the show, which was really interesting. Now, that's not quite answering your question, but rather that was the connection between his office and UFOs, that essentially a blip on a radar screen caused all hell to break loose inside the White House, which in my book, again, proves that national security implication and potential threat to whatever this phenomena is. George Herbert Walker, his connection obviously back to the CIA days. And this is where it's really interesting for me, because if my theory, and it's just that, is correct and that presidents are kept in the dark, that means like the DCI, or the Director of Central Intelligence, the DNI, Director of National Intelligence, those are the offices that are really going to be the secret keepers. We don't know a whole lot about those offices and those that hold the office, but George H.W. is kind of an exception, because he obviously went from director of the CIA, rose through the ranks, then later to become president. So that was kind of like blurring the line. Did he actually know the secrets? And we don't know that. But a lot of those guys, they stay very tight-lipped. And George H.W. was one of them. He did not talk a lot about his days, not only as president, but especially as director of the CIA.
And the positive talk from Reagan, Ford, Carter, Clinton, and Obama is the opposite of what Trump, now Trump on 3 occasions was asked about UFOs and UAPs, the Navy videos and so forth. And one of those 3 people was his own son.
Yeah.
And he seemed to, if I'm going to deduce something from his responses, I don't think he cares. I don't think he's a believer. He doesn't have the "I want to believe" poster in the Oval Office. I don't think he cares or he knows anything. What did you think about his 3 responses?
Yeah, I posted that video because I was kind of intrigued by it. I think Don Jr. asked as kind of a teaser, because he tweeted that out. I asked my dad about UFOs or whatever he posted. So that gets people talking, oh, what's the president going to say? So I think it was a little bit for teasing purposes. But Don Jr. did look a little bit, like a kid asking, and I know that feeling. So he may have a genuine interest. Trump, you're absolutely right. Pretty much seemed like he just didn't care, that it was like a kind of a shielded answer, like where you can kind of want to read into it. You could, but essentially he just, he rolled his eyes and had his smirk, and it just seemed like he didn't really care. But again, to go back what I said, like he is that prime example of why presidents should be left in the dark. And I don't want to just pick on Trump here. I'm talking about all of them, where they are doing interviews all the time. And if you're not on your game, you can absolutely spill a national security, highly classified, top secret tidbit of info very, very easily, especially with the fatigue that plagues every president. That regardless if you love them or hate them, they don't sleep. They're up dealing with multiple issues at all hours of the night, dealing with every time zone on the planet, flying around from time zone to time zone. I mean, how many friends, us included, me on the top of the list, complain about, being jet lagged when you fly across country just once? These guys are going across country all the time, going across the planet. That fatigue plays a role in national security information and the safeguards within it, that you need to make sure that who you're sharing this information with is not going to accidentally spill the beans. And that's why I do support that the theory that presidents are left in the dark. That would be the biggest, I would say, safeguard when it comes to this, because presidents, they're out in 4 to 8 years. They don't need to know everything, because a lot of these secrets are maintained for decades and decades. So why tell someone your deepest, darkest secrets if probably in those 4 to 8 years they're not going to be dealing with it much? If there is this massive UFO cover-up and it's been going on since the 1940s, why do you have to tell the president? There's absolutely no reason. I don't buy the whole, alien collusion thing, but if there was like some kind of active program like those silly theories, yeah, sure, okay, maybe brief them because there's deals going on, but that's way too far-fetched for me. I think that the cover-up is indefinite and presidents are not. The office of the presidency, I think, is kept in the dark on a lot of those secrets because, again, they don't have a need to know. As crazy as that sounds, I do not believe the president has a need to know what these agencies are doing on programs that can span decades when they're only in office 4 to 8 years.
Yeah, that's right. And the simple way to look at it is that presidents come and go, but the intelligence officials are there for their career. The programs continue after any president leaves office, and that's it. There isn't really another way to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that they have enough on their plate to deal with anyway, but it goes back to that need to know. And as wild and crazy as that sounds, because you think a president would know everything, and there's the theory of the president's black book, that's all the deepest, darkest secrets of the U.S. government. And there's no way they're going to fit all of that in one book. And so I think that those types of, they made a History Channel show out of it. So obviously a lot of people believe that there are these secrets that are written down and presidents are read in on. I just don't see it. And to go back to the root of this conversation, who is the best disclosure president?
Right.
They don't exist. Man, woman, Democrat, Independent, Republican, it just doesn't matter, because I believe that they are absolutely kept in the dark, and that national security risk about acknowledging such a phenomena is too big to let a president get out.
Now, let's suppose there is a breaking UFO story in the next week. Is there a possibility? Do you see a moderator in the next two debates bringing up the UFO question to either Biden or Trump?
That's a great question, and I don't know. I mean, I think you would have to have something that was threatening in nature, and a lot of people hate the T word when it comes to UFOs and UAPs.
Right.
I'm not sure why that is. I 100% align with the narrative that there is a threat potential here, and it's provable going back decades. So whatever story that has to break has to be something that catches a national security concern. And if you catch the national security concern, you catch the interest of the general public, because everybody's scared of things that can hurt us. So if there is something that will do just that, scare the people, there could be enough pressure for that question to be asked. But if it's just, in 2004, there was a tic-tac shaped object, that's not going to come up in a debate.
It's not going to fly. No.
Yeah, not in, pardon the pun, but not in 2020. You really have to have something that an object went in and shut down a silo, have one of those types of cases again, but in 2020, and a nuclear facility shut down, and this, unidentified object is seen and then whisks away and nobody was able to catch it. That's the kind of caliber you'd need for a presidential debate to bring this up.
Now, it ruined Kucinich's run. It was a pretty strange moment for him to even say UFOs into a microphone during a debate, but he did, and that was the end of his campaign. But that was because of a personal reference to the UFO question for him. Is it a bit different now with the way that the media has been handling it, that a candidate today could be asked about their opinions on the UFO question and they're not going to get laughed out of town? Have we seen those kind of changes?
I think so, to the point where I don't think they'll get laughed out of town. But I don't see it as a serious discussion. There's been a big shift on how the media has dealt with this. Some of it in a good way, some of it in a bad way. And I think that the media has largely learned, if you take this more seriously, you get more clicks, you get more eyeballs, and so on and so forth. But we're not seeing a shift in the political arena much yet. No, the exception is obviously Marco Rubio, who did an interview, talked about UFOs, and wasn't afraid to address it. That's huge. I don't want to take away from that. That is gigantic. Harry Reid also talks about it. Sadly, that was another thing that was completely blown out of the water by the New York Times, which was a massive correction. And why I bring that up is not to pick on the New York Times again, but rather the damage. It's super important that Harry Reid is willing to talk about UFOs or UAPs. As a private citizen now, so there's not a lot of weight we could put on it, but at least it's a politician of a big name that we could put on a very short list of those that are unafraid to talk about it. Where it damages it is when you start saying that, well, Harry Reid said that there's off-world vehicles, and we know that the New York Times completely messed that up and retracted it. So now, in my view, people are going to minimize the importance of someone like Harry Reid coming out and saying UFO is important, they deserve investigation, because that list is so short and because many of them are not willing to talk. But outside of those select few examples, I don't think that they'd be laughed out of town, but I also don't think that question would be asked without laughs from the audience, a final joke by the moderator, and most likely a joke by the candidate who was asked. So I'd love to see the question asked. I just don't think in that arena it would be taken seriously.
One last question before we wrap up. Do you think, how do you picture the UAP task force at the Pentagon? Is it an office that is staffed, or is it a task force in paper only?
That's another good question. I want to believe that it is a team of people that is looking at these important cases that are happening and trying to deduce what's happening. What I'm afraid it is either on paper or just above it, where you've got one person, looking at a couple things in their free time, analyzing only because there was enough political pressure to say that they were doing that. So for me, I think it can go either way.
Ooh,
because you have
that's a really good point. That's a really good point.
I think that you have to look at that and did they really want this? If they did, then I don't think that the Pentagon would be pushing back so hard about previous UAP and UFO statements and their stance and so on. And I know we're running into the end here, but I've searched internally for documents to see how internally they are speaking about stuff like this. And I'll bring up the Air Force really quickly. And they just were talking about, when it comes to UAPs, according to the Air Force, they were talking about drones and UASs or unmanned aviation systems. They were saying that that is what even the Navy was referring to. And the media fumbled it all up into UFOs and aliens. And so is that kind of showing us that that is really what they're doing? So now they're getting some political pressure. Rubio saying you need to do this. So the DOD and OSD and the Secretary of Defense's office, they go, fine. No, we'll look into this. Senator Rubio, get you an answer. So sure, not a problem, you know. And then internally they're like, yeah, okay, look, just double time it if you can. Look into some stuff. We'll send over some documents. So it can go either way. And that's what I kind of fear, is that even though I feel the phenomena deserves attention, deserves funding, and the military should take it seriously, I believe it has nothing of the sort. They put a cool name on it because of political pressure. And in the end, we'll probably not see anything anyway.
Yeah, because I look at it this way. Let's just say that the day arrives where you and I get visitor passes for the Pentagon, right? You and I walk in and we're walking down the corridors of the E-ring, right? And
strutting our stuff,
and we walk by, and right there on a door is a little sign that you slide in, and it says UAP Task Force, right? And we look in, and there's desks, and there's computers, and there's a staff, and there's people. That would be cool, and I would love for that to be the reality. I just don't think that is the case.
It's possible we open up that door and step in and fall out of the building.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, that's possible too. I want that to be the case. I really do. I just think that there's a lot working against that scenario with the stance of everything. But ultimately, time is going to tell. And I'm going to keep pushing, at least through legal means, to try and figure out exactly what they're doing. And then hopefully as time goes on, they'll release a little bit more. And I hope that I'm proven wrong, that unclassified UAP report, should it ever come to fruition, will have a lot more in it than I would expect an unclassified report to have.
John, don't change, man. Thank you for everything.
I appreciate it. Anytime. I always have a lot of fun with you. Thank you.
You're the best. John Greenwald of the Black Vault. And it's all simple. You can follow John right there on Twitter at BlackVaultCom. The links for the Black Vault are easy to get to. They are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Click. It has 2.3 million documents right there archived. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to come back and open up the phone lines, 747-228-2051. Be safe up there, John. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You too.
I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Here, and you are listening to my boy Jimmy Church on jimmychurchradio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at jimmychurchradio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JFK
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. I want to thank John Greenwald coming in strong tonight. Great conversation. So much happening right now. So much. But yeah, I think it's a really great point that we need to understand and we need to absorb and not forget. That is, presidents come and go. Presidents come and go. The security agencies, the intelligence agencies, those are career officials that are going to be there for a long time. The programs that are there and in place are there before the president and after the president. Everything cannot be disclosed to a president. That's impossible. The important stuff is there. The breaking stuff is there. The things that are going on around the world and around the country are things that they are dealing with every single day. But programs that are long-standing and absolutely top secret, they stay in the background. That's on a need-to-know basis. And that's something that we have to accept, right? Now, I remember I made a statement on The Unexplained, the TV show I did for history. Breaking Mysterious internationally, The Unexplained here in the United States. And I had said this. When a president is sworn into office and you leave the inauguration and you make it over to the White House, and now you're sitting in the Oval Office for the first time, and you're arranging your desk. You got your pen holder here, you got your desk blotter, telephone, maybe a new pen. You're putting that down and you're sitting in the chair and you're like, man, this is great. I'm president. This is cool. And then at that moment, the phone rings. I guarantee it. And you pick up the phone. Hey, president. And you find out at that moment that you're not the boss. Somebody on the other end of the line is telling you how it is. You're photographed and videoed walking in one mood, right? Happy. It's all good. And then you walk back out of the Oval Office a little bit later with a different look on your face. You're stunned. That's how I think it is. I 100% believe that. All the very core, the bones in this body. Yeah. All right. 747-228-2051. 747-228-2051. Let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hi, Jimmy. This is Stephen Padilla from Pasadena, California.
Hi, Stephen.
John.
What's
hi.
What?
My question to John. John.
John.
I sent you that.
Steve.
I sent you. Yes.
Stephen. John's not with us anymore.
Oh. Okay. I thought he was. I was on hold outside. So
Okay. All right. But you can ask me. Ask me.
Okay. Well, Paul Dean out of Australia does the FIOA with what John does, and I was in contact with him. And
Yes.
Actually, I sent John an email that Paul Dean said that we should try using the FIA with the new Space Force. That may, if anybody's going to be coming across some maybe UFO information, would be that new Space Force. And John said he was going to look into it, so I was just going to ask him about that.
Stephen, have you ever done a Freedom of Information Act request yourself?
No, I have not. I've just got some information on it, but I looked into it with some of these researchers and asked them what we thought would be the places to go look for UFO information. And
I think Stephen, you bring up a great point. And I will ask John that off the air. I'll ask him if he's made any headway with the Space Force and if he has done any FOIA request concerning that, because I think that's a great question. And beyond that, if the Space Force did acquire any data, right? Did they see anything? Did they video anything? If anything happened, would they disclose it? I would think that the Space Force, at least for the time being, is going to be one of the most clandestine branches of the military that we have. We're not going to know anything. We don't know anything about the Navy SEALs, right? We don't know anything about the Rangers. We don't know what those guys are doing. I mean, they keep that stuff top secret. Let alone the other stuff with the Navy and the Air Force and what have you. But the Space Force, now we're getting into a whole nother area with armed satellites. Yes or no? Is there, are we going to keep that stuff out of space? Is it, that China's got armed satellites. That Russia does. And I would assume that we do too. And the Space Force needs to continue to protect the assets that we have up there in space. Telephone systems, data systems, the internet, Elon Musk, Starlink, all of these things need to be protected. And if we ever get into a war, and I never want to even talk about that. I don't want to jinx anything. But the first thing that you need to do is you need to control the battlefield. And the battlefield is controlled by space today. And the theater of operations is directly fed from data links from satellites. You need to make the other guy blind.
And what's interesting, just 2 weeks ago, it was verified that the China Russia have direct energy laser satellites out there to start knocking things down. It was verified about 2 weeks ago. So Space Force being up there, it sounds like, hey, it's going to be really happening up there. But I really think if anybody's going to come across UFOs, if you're patrolling the skies, if you're the Space Force like a police in the sky, you're going to see either UFOs. If they're there, you're going to come across them. And I think there's going to be a lot of data, a lot of information coming in through there.
Yeah, I agree with you, Stephen. I think it's a great point, and I will follow up on it for you. Thank you so much, man.
Hey,
be safe out there. You got it. That's a great point. That is a great point. We have the Space Force now. You know, we literally have the Space Force. So what's up with that, right? Well, yeah, I'm going to follow up. And there's no question. Dan from Australia just tweeted out that Paul Dean is a master when it comes to FOIA and document investigation. I totally agree with you. Paul Dean is definitely a master at that game. I got to get Paul Dean on the show. Every time I mention Paul, it's like, man, I got to get Paul on the show. Got to get Paul on the show. There is a tweet that just came out from Dire Distress. It says, what is your opinion on any more disclosures happening in the future administration, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris? Do you think that they will just be as opaque as previous administrations? Well, Dire Distress is assuming at this point that the next administration is going to be Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. That being said, I tend to agree with John that and I've brought up this point so many times, presidents come and go every 4 years. You know, maybe there's an 8-year run there, but presidents come and go. The agenda continues. It was there before, and it will be there after any administration comes in. So, but I haven't seen any mention of UFOs with Joe Biden. I can't speak for Kamala Harris. I don't know. I just don't see it happening. There's just nothing. No, total silence when it comes to UFOs. That's why we need a breaking UFO story over the next couple of weeks, over the next week, so we can get it out there in the media, and hopefully it'll get brought up during the debates over the next two. That being said, with President Trump, if he gets reelected, he poo-pooed the entire UFO conversation. There was nothing that came out of him that would indicate to me that he is interested in disclosure. I said a few times, if Trump knew, I do believe he would have tweeted it out. I just feel that. I think that he would want us to know. If he knew something like that, I just felt that about President Trump. I did, and it never happened. So there you go. The opportunity was there. It's on Fox News every single night. We've got Marco Rubio. We've got the Senate Intelligence Committee. We've got the Navy, the Pentagon, everybody talking about this, and the UAP task force, all of that being part of the spending bill, that the opportunity was there, and it didn't happen. So we've got 4 more years coming up. Will it? In this case, I think we're going to have to wait 4 more years. We need a president and a candidate and things to make this part of their agenda, to put it out there, and we need some things to happen publicly on the front end. We need a breaking UFO story. That's what we need. All right, with that, let's go back to the phones. 747-228-2051. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hi, Jimmy. It's Deb.
Hi, Deb. How are you?
Hey, great. Timing is everything. And when he wins again, we need another Phoenix Lights. That would be big. That would be big enough to talk about at a debate.
So you're assuming a Trump victory. So if you're
I know.
Okay,
I feel
well,
it in my bones.
Okay, let's not take this political, but assuming.
Okay, but you asked me.
But assuming a Trump victory, you're saying that he would be the guy, if we had another Phoenix Lights event, that he's going to go all in for the UFO community and disclosure will arrive?
I think that if it were not super classified to where we would be in danger and he knew it was safe, he would disclose things, because when he first got sworn in, and several times after he got sworn in, he'd do public talks and he would talk about the new technology that's going to be coming out, and he would talk a lot about new technology. He didn't say it was suppressed, but he would say there's a lot of stuff coming and it's going to blow your mind, some of the stuff that we've got. And he mentioned technology a lot. I don't think he has permission to talk about it yet, but he has mentioned it. So if he once he gets the green light, I don't think he's gun shy about talking about that kind of thing.
Now, let's say that Biden is elected. Is there a possibility of disclosure from him?
So that's a road I can't go down with you, because
why?
It's
not a partisan, but it's not,
because you don't want me to be political.
It's not a partisan thing. I'm talking about Biden and him as an individual. It's not a partisan thing. There's no way it can be. The UFOs are not partisan. They could give a crap about politics. So my question is, if Biden is elected, would he disclose?
No.
Okay. All right. Do you have
I
a
don't think
reason
they would
why?
trust him. Yeah, I don't think they would trust him with the information.
But they would trust Trump with the information? That doesn't
I
make
think
any
Trump
sense.
Is more because he's more cognitive and more lucid, and I think he's able to keep things confidential when they need to be.
But disclosure of the UFO subject, at that point, everything's out of the bag. It doesn't matter what you know or don't know. If you're disclosing, it doesn't matter who it is. I mean, I don't understand the logic here.
I don't either. I'm not sure I'm understanding what you're saying. You said, why would one disclose and why not?
Trusting...
I'm talking about trusting them with secrets. Well, like I said, if you have a president who can keep secrets and who is lucid and knows not to say things, then he's going to keep secrets like Trump. But if you have someone who's doesn't have all their cognitive abilities in place and they know things, they probably wouldn't trust him with that information. So he wouldn't know, so he couldn't disclose.
But what you're saying is then Trump wouldn't be the disclosure president because he would keep it a secret. That's what you just said.
No, what I just said was that if once he gets the green light and he has the information, they say, hey, this isn't a danger, it's okay to disclose this stuff now, he would be more than willing to disclose it. If he knew things and if it were safe. Okay, so if Biden is elected and they say, okay, here's the information, go ahead and disclose it, what's the difference? I'm trying to understand what you're trying to say. What I'm saying is I don't think they would trust Biden with the information because he is forgetful, I believe. He's not all there mentally sometimes. And I think that he would accidentally say something that maybe he's not supposed to say. So he would not be trusted with the information. So they wouldn't tell him any of it. I was trying to beat around the bush and not be rude about it, and be more vague. But I don't want to be unkind.
Well, I get where you're coming from here because this is the divided country that we are in, and certainly why we never discuss politics on the show. The conspiracy of politics is what is most interesting to me, and when it comes to the UFO question. What is it that is being held from the public, and what is it that the presidents actually know? And it's not only Jimmy. it's not even limited to UFOs. It's not. I mean, there's a whole bevy of stuff that never gets into the Oval Office. Oh, you can bet on that. And there's a lot of frustration. Where. I guarantee it that it doesn't matter who the president is. He picks up the phone and he hears something and he's calling an intelligence agency trying to get answers. And they're going, well, you know what? Honestly, Mr. President, no disrespect, but no. No, you're
Well,
not
it's not a
cleared
need
for
to know
that.
for you. Yeah. Well,
That's-
I have the Jimmy Church solution to the next debates.
What's that?
Well, with it being such a hot mess last night, the next two debates, what they should do, I'm going to use your theory, use the mute button. So when one of them is speaking, they cut the other one's mic. So if the other one starts to interrupt or say something or yell at the other one, no one can hear them. They're, like you say, the mute button. They're in a room by themselves, yelling at themselves. No one can hear them. It's insignificant while the other one speaks. And then when the other one goes to talk, cut off the other one's mic. That's the solution. That's what they should do. And they need a different moderator next time who isn't clearly on one person's side.
Yeah, and it's so funny for me to hear you say that, because I'm in the middle. I'm right in the middle on this. I could really give a crap, but I will say this: I'm embarrassed for the United States. The rest of the world saw that crap. And that it's just shocking to me. And as far as Chris Wallace goes, for him to sit there, if I was there, I would have tried to wrangle that and rope it in just like he did. It's an impossible thing to do. So, no, there wasn't, I don't think there was anybody, it didn't go either way at all. Everybody saw what happened, and that's it. Yeah. And it was an embarrassment. And if that's the best we can do as a country, the rest of the world is looking at where we need. This is the truth, Deb. This is the bottom line. We need to represent stability. The rest of the world looks at us as being stable. We are the leaders in economy, in morals, in justice, and in military, in freedoms and everything. The rest of the world looks at us going, man, the United States is just amazing. They got it going on. Well, obviously last night we showed them the exact opposite. And that cannot, I'm embarrassed. And I apologize. I apologize to everybody. Yeah. I don't think it'll be repeated. I don't think it can be fixed. I don't think it can be fixed.
I think it can.
No.
I think it can. I think it can. Well, the next two debates will be better. I don't think that will be repeated. I mean, especially Trump. I think he'll go back and watch it and figure out, ooh, I shouldn't have. He'll critique himself and he'll correct it, because that's what he did in the last election. He'd get a little bit fired up and then he'd strike back, and then each debate he got better and better and better, and that's his pattern, and I believe that's what will happen again this time. It's always tough, the first debate going out of the gate, Jimmy.
No,
maybe you didn't watch the debates in 2016. I don't know.
No. It's not about that. It's not about that at all. Last night was the absolute worst of anything as it could get. It could not get any worse. In past debates in any any election year, none of that matters. None of that matters. What matters is what happened last night. And everybody, can you imagine what was going on with everybody around the world? Forget about the United States. Everybody was shocked on both sides. It doesn't matter. But the rest of the world, looking back at us, right now, we look like crazy town. We really do. We are not in control.
We're in a crazy world right now, aren't we?
But we're not in control of our own country. We're not. We are clearly not. So there you go. I don't know. I just don't know. I'm just embarrassed. Hopefully that things. You know what? This is the thing. We always go, and this goes back. I don't care. You can go back 200 years. We always say as a country, it's going to be better next week. Everything is going to be fine. We're going to work this out. Everything is going to move forward. And that's what it's wash, rinse, repeat. That's all we do. So we're right back in that same position. Next week, it's going to be better. All right, everybody's going to grow up. We're going to get our heads together, and everything's going to be just fine. And that's where we are. That's it. I don't see it. I just don't. This time around.
Well, this is going to be nothing. You want to hear my conspiracy from the other night that we didn't get to talk about conspiracies, because you and Jason had such a great show, by the way. But can I tell you my conspiracy?
You got 30 seconds. Go.
Yeah. So the anti-aging thing will eventually happen. All the elites will get the treatments. None of the rest of us will. So they will be immortal. They'll be able to live on this planet according to the Georgia Guidestones. There'll be 500 million and under. So that will take care of all of them. They'll develop clones, and the clones and AI will serve them, and we'll all be extinguished. How's that for a conspiracy?
Could
Very
be.
dark. Now, no, it's not going to happen, but it wouldn't shock me if that was their plan.
Well, if you read and take the Georgia Guidestones literally, that's pretty frightening. Did you watch?
I know.
Did you watch the TV series? Just on Amazon. Oh, it just aired with Rainn Wilson. Somebody help me out. Rainn Wilson just aired. Go and watch that. John Cusack. It's John Cusack and Rainn Wilson. Watch the whole thing from beginning to end, and then come back and think.
Series?
Yeah, it just aired.
I'll look it up.
This weekend, I think Friday night. You can watch the whole thing. I can't remember. How much time do I have? Oh, man, I'm running out of time.
About?
Hold on. Well, the Georgia Guidestones. Rainn Wilson. Hold on. John Cusack. And let's see what pops up here. Hold on. Utopia.
Oh.
Utopia. Just go and watch it. That's all I got to say. And then you're not going to, you know what? I'm not going to give anything else away. The whole Georgia Guidestone aspect of it doesn't surface to the last episode. So as you're watching it, think of all of the statements on the Georgia Guidestones, though. That's all.
Okay.
Enjoy your night.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Real quick. Last night before the show, did you have a little something to drink?
What?
Last night before you went live on the show, did you have a little something to drink, like alcoholic?
No. I haven't had any alcohol in my system. No, I took a half a shot 2-3 weeks ago. I took a sip, I should say. But I haven't.
Because you were very loose last night.
No,
very loose.
I haven't had any alcohol for months. But that doesn't mean that I won't be drinking on my birthday in 10 days.
There you go.
There you go. Thank you so much, Deb. Have a great night.
You too. Go Beckley Tappy.
Go Beckley Tappy. And that wraps another episode of Fade to Black. This was the 4Js week. 4Js. Jason, Johnny, John, and tomorrow night it's me. What a great night tonight. Thank you, John Greenwald. Tomorrow night's Fader Night, open lines all night long. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camarion. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2020 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. I'm yours, Jimmy Church. Until tomorrow night, Fader Night, I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Tappy.